on who mentioned Richard Nixon and Vietnam. And, you know, I went off on a rant about Nixon. The reason that we know about, and I mentioned that there's even a piece about this over at dailycoast.com today. I wrote about this at some length in my book, The Hidden History of the Supreme Court and the Betrayal of America, because the GOP getting people into office and ignoring their crimes on the way has always been rationalized by these guys as, oh yeah, we're doing this because we've, you know, the president appoints the Supreme Court justices. But in any case, this was, as I said, in the fall of 1968, President Johnson had negotiated a peace with South Vietnam. Boy, today is not my day. I need a cup of coffee here. President Johnson had negotiated a peace in South Vietnam with the leadership of South Vietnam and North Vietnam. He had the whole thing worked out. And then Richard Nixon and his campaign got into the act because they heard about this. And this is a phone call. This is from the Johnson Library, the LBJ Library, that was only released about a decade ago. I mean, this, you know, they waited until it was, what, 50 years after everybody had died, or something like that, 50 years after the, to release this. And there's two clips here. This is the first one. This is, Everett Dirksen was the leader of the Senate and a Republican. And this is Lyndon Johnson talking to Everett Dirksen, arguably the most powerful man in the Senate.
Here's the latest information we got. The agent says that they just talked to the boss in New Mexico. And that he says that you must hold out. Just hold on until after the election. We know what Chew is saying to them out there. Yeah. We're pretty well informed on both ends. Now, I'm reading their hand, Everett. I don't want to get this in the campaign. That's right. And they oughtn't to be doing this. This is treason. I know.
I know. And so that was the first clip. And then this is toward the end of the conversation. Well, LBJ is like, you know, we got to do something about this.
Well, now, what do you think we ought to do about it? Well, I better get in touch with him, I think, and tell him about it. I think you better tell him that his people are saying to these folks that they oughtn't to go through with this meeting. Now, if they don't go through the meeting, it's not going to be me that's hurt. I think it's going to be whoever's elected, and they'd be my guess him. Yeah. And I think they're making a very serious mistake, and I don't want to say this. Yeah. And you're the only one I'm going to say it to.
It's amazing. I mean, LBJ was so concerned that he might be diminishing the credibility of American politicians, that he would be diminishing the credibility of Richard Nixon, that he didn't want to go public with this because he wanted the American people to believe that there was still some integrity left in American politics. Now, you know, I would argue that was a terrible political mistake by LBJ. He should have outed Nixon about this when he learned about it, which was about a month before the election. He should have just gone public. Richard, you know, we had a peace deal with the Vietnamese, and Richard Nixon blew it up. But he was unwilling to do that kind of damage to the American political system. And of course, then you look at where we are right now, and it's like, oh, man.